Well, then what are you gonna do? Your plan. What are you gonna do with your plan?
You're gonna give me a con? Can you come up with a con pantser? What's the con for pantsing? Hey y'all, it's Crystal.
And Rachel / Felicity. And today we're gonna be talking about planning versus pantsing. Live in the ring tonight.
Dukes up. Here we go. So we're gonna go back old school. On this one, we're gonna each take a side. I'm gonna stick with planning because that's all I've ever really known. And Rachel's gonna put her dukes up for you pantsers out there. Hopefully by the end of the video, you guys have come up with your own ideas of whether you think planning or pantsing is best. And I kind of feel like I'm gonna sway you a certain way.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna do pros and cons. We're gonna start off with a pro first for planning. And that pro is that with planning, you never really have a moment where you go, what do I do next? Because you already have it planned out. So you can just keep on writing, and writer's block seems to be less common when you're a planner.
I mean, okay, but you're still gonna have those moments of what do I do next while you're making your grand plan. So either way, you're gonna have those issues.
But still, at the end of the day, you kind of know where you're going with it. I mean, so, and how many times have you, as a pantser, sat there for quite some time and thought, what do I do next?
How many times as a planner have you sat there in the midst of your outline thinking, what do I do next? It's gonna happen.
I'm gonna just be real honest, and I've done that in the middle of writing a story. So, all right, okay.
I know. Okay. Me too. The first pro of pantsing is that you get to let your free-spirited creative side take the wheel. Whenever you've got this strict plan that you're sticking to, what happens if you have that huge inspiration in the middle of your story? You can't do it because it doesn't go with the plan.
First of all, when you're planning, I do think that you can switch it up a little bit. You just know where you're going. But I also think that pantsers use this a lot as an excuse for when things go awry and they're like, well, my characters decided to take it in this direction. They've got the will on this.
I don't care what side I'm taking for this little video here. I would never say my characters took the wheel. Notice I said you as the author get to use your creative side, because as we all know, we are the writers of our characters. Everything they do is because we told them to do it. So no, I want you to take that back, because I did not say that. You know how much I hate that.
I know. I think that's why I threw it in there. All right. So how's this for the next pro for planning? You are less likely to have plot holes because you planned it. You're not going all willy-nilly, writing it all crazy. You know where you're going, you know how to get there, so your plot holes are going to be less likely.
Okay, I don't really have anything for that. You got me there. You got me there. All right. The second pro for pantsing is that it leaves the flexibility for things to come up that may or may not work as you write your story. Even when you're planning, now, you can't contradict me on this because this has happened to us before. Even when you've planned out an entire story, you get to the chapter and you start to write it and it doesn't work. As a former pantser, I knew the vague plan in my head. I just didn't write it down. I guess I find it hard to believe that people are actually out there with zero plan.
I feel like there is a plan with pantsers, and it usually goes like this. I know how I want to open the book, and I know how I want to close the book. And I got no clue how to get from point A to point B. All right, let's move on to the cons. I'll take the cons on mine. I'll tell you what the cons are, and go back to something that you said earlier, which is that it sometimes does take a lot of time to plan. But I feel like it's not disruptive of the creative process because you're planning it all out. So when it's time to sit down and it's time to write, you're ready to go. Whether you're using Scrivener or a notebook, or you used Excel for a really long time to put that all down, you know what is the next step you need to take. But it's going to take some time. So it's not like you get to run with the creative juices and just put it out there from the beginning.
Here's one. Writer's block is much more likely to happen when you're in the course of writing your story. I've been there. It's happened to me. It happened to me. I was blocked for months. And I mentioned this in a previous video. I lost readers because of that. And that, I think, is the final straw that made me say, all right, I'm done with the pantsing. So yes, writer's block is a problem. And if I'm not mistaken, your next con for your precious planning has a little something to do with writer's block. Don't think you're immune. Nobody's immune from writer's block.
You get hung up on the plan. You can't let go. So I understand that. And sometimes it does take a moment where you got to step back and say, how do I get from here to here? I've gone weeks with not really writing anything because I've been hung up on how to get from here to here.
Yeah.
Usually though, what I find out is it's not so much the plan that has gotten me hung up. It's that I have found a lovely darling that I'm not willing to kill. And that's really where my hang up comes with moving on to the next part of the story, is that I've written this great dialogue or this little scene, and it really doesn't segue from one thing to the next very well. And now I'm sitting here and I'm stuck because that, for some reason, has become part of the plan.
And that happens with pantsing too, though.
A lot of times that ended up being kind of a spur of the moment thing. I'm not going to say pantsing because you don't plan it all out. Like, I'm not like, oh, this is every bit of dialogue. Now, I will have moments where I'm sitting there, I'm going, oh, I want this to go down this way. And I'll kind of jot down some dialogue, just grab my iPhone and go into notes. And I'm like, oh, this dialogue will be really great here. So, I mean, that's kind of a planning there. But most of the time, I mean, there is a feeling of pantsing in that moment. You just know where that moment, what that moment needs to be and where it's going to go.
The second con of pantsing is that you are much more likely to go off on tangents that don't really move your story forward. I don't even think you need to give me a rebuttal on this because it's true.
So we agree. There's pros and cons either way, whether you're pantsing or you're a planner.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think no matter what, there are things that are a must do for either group of people.
Yes. The first thing you need to do, no matter if you're going to pants your story, if you've watched this and you say, I don't care what either of y'all say, I'm going to be a pantser, fine. No matter what, you need to plan the verb tense you're going to use and plan the point of view you're going to use and stick with it the whole time. You cannot switch back and forth.
I mean, you could, but you're going to have a garbage story.
So don't.
Don't do it. No, I mean, for a good story, you got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, we believe that you have to put together simple profiles for your main characters. So we don't get into writing the story and forget that you made Bobby's eyes blue and then, 5 chapters later, his eyes have turned brown. These are like the little things that you want to be able to go look back with. I know when I first started writing my very first story ever, a fanfic, I put on to Wattpad, very first one. My niece caught it and she's like, you made this character, you made her parents never married. Yet over here, her parents were married. And I'm going to admit it right now. I pants that story. I did.
You said that you had never done such a thing.
I'd like to profusely apologize to all of our
hold
viewers
on,
for my
hold
lies.
Hold on.
I pantsed a fanfic. That played in. It was actually a pretty big part of the story, was the goings on between her parents, and I botched it. After that, I started planning everything. Never again. No more botched stories.
All right, I'm shooketh, so let's move on to number 3. No matter whether you decide to plan or pants, you have to do research. It doesn't matter which one. You need to research your setting. You need to research any kind of maybe medical conditions or mental health stuff that you're going to give your characters. You may need to do some cultural research. You have to do research. Don't think just because you're going to willy-nilly a story that you don't have to do any of that, because you have to. I pants trust and I still had to research schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, all kinds of medical stuff I had to research. And and if you don't, and somebody runs across your story who's knowledgeable about those things, they'll call you out in a heartbeat.
Number 4, you have to plan out the flow of your story. You need to pick out what's going to be the inciting action, what's going to be the building actions, what's going to be the climax, and what's going to be the resolution. There's just no way around it. This is simple. We do this as children when we first start learning about literature in, grade school.
The plot diagram. We teach it all the time.
You have to. It's just really important in order to know where we're getting. So if you don't have those basics, pants the rest of it, but at least know these are the things that need to be done in order to make for a good climax, or it's going to flop.
All right. So I think that it's pretty clear that planning has won the spar. So good job. I'm a planner now, so arguing all of that for pantsing was a little bit difficult. So
if you guys have a reason for pantsing and they're good, legitimate reasons that we forgot, put them down in the comments, put us in our place, keep the debate going. Let's fight it out in, an amicable, nice way. Use kind words, but we'll fight this out.
We hope you guys found this helpful in your decision making when it comes to being a planner or a pantser. And we thank you so much for watching. And remember, you can read all of our stories, which have all been planned, at Crystal and Felicity on Wattpad.
Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell so you get notifications when we upload every Friday.
And as always, write what you love.